All right, good morning, everyone. Thank you guys so much for joining our webinar today. Today, we're going to be talking about how you can make use of reports within Less Annoying CRM, how you can export them out from the software as well to crunch some numbers in Excel. We're going to be covering a fair bit here, but don't worry, as always, our webinars are recorded, so it's all right if you don't catch everything the first time round. We're going to send you an email after this webinar is over with a link to the replay of everything we talked about today. So if you're jotting notes, totally fine, but if you miss something, you're going to get a replay at the end. But before we get started here, let's go ahead and get some introductions. My name is Eunice, and I'm a CRM coach here at Less Annoying CRM. I've worked with hundreds of businesses to get their CRM accounts set up and also do a bit of sales work for our team here. Today, I'm joined by my colleague, Julia, who's our marketing expert, and she's going to be around here to field questions as we go through the webinar. So to talk a little quickly about that, we want this webinar to be informative and interactive for everyone here. So if at any point you have questions, just send it in the form of a chat or a question. So on the right side of your screen, you should see a little panel called questions. That is our platform where you can enter in any question that you have. We'll keep track of all of these questions as we go to make sure we have time to tackle them. So if you hop over to that questions panel and you see that someone already has a question that you are also interested in knowing the answer to, just click on the up arrow to the right. That moves it up our question list so that we know. Of course, if your question is not on that list, go ahead and click on Ask a New Question and fill that out, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can as we walk through this system. So first of all here, let's cover some quick basics. You all probably know this already, but just to quickly run through what a CRM is. A CRM stands for Customer Relationship Manager, and it is here to help you keep track of your relationships with your prospects, your leads, your current clients, your vendors, anyone that you work with. It helps you track your relationships through detailed notes and logs and lets you set up follow-up reminders so that you can always keep track of when you need to reach out to someone and when you need to talk with them. Just a quick point here, this webinar for reporting here is going to be a little bit more advanced. I'm anticipating that most of you have already used the CRM before, have a good idea of how the system works, have an idea of how pipelines work. But if you need a more in-depth overview of Less Annoying CRM, our core functionality, our core features, I'd recommend watching our beginner's guide videos, scheduling a demo call with us, watching one of our other demo webinars that run through the CRM's basic details. This webinar specifically is going to focus on 3 areas with regards to reports in the system. These 3 areas are, first of all, how to make use of internal reports to track your users' activity, like task and activity reports. Second of all, how to use and save your pipeline reports internally by filtering to see what you currently have moving through your workflows. And finally, I'm going to talk a little bit more about how to pull more data from your pipeline report by exporting it out into an Excel spreadsheet. So the first report we're going to talk about here are your activity and task reports. These are internal reports for you to track progress within the CRM and manage what you and your team are doing. The activity report will show you everything that was done in Less Annoying CRM over a specific date range. These will be all of the entered notes, completed tasks, attended events, logged emails, and pipeline updates. These reports are handy when you're trying to see what you or another user has done over a period of time. And for a lot of managers, they use this activity report to help them with one-on-one meetings with their team members. So you can go through a team member's activity report with them, see what they did, talk through how to improve, and stuff like that. This helps you make sure your team's hitting their targets and is a way for your team to keep a full log of what they've done. A task report, on the other hand, is just made up of all the tasks that you and your team have scheduled in the CRM and is a hub for you to see all your past, future, complete, and incomplete tasks. It's a way for you to keep up with tasks beyond what you have scheduled for today, and that's all of the tasks shown on your workspace, and is a way for you to see what other people have coming up as well. This helps you plan ahead and also keep an eye out on what your team will be working on in the future. So let's see what they look like in the actual CRM. So I've got a nice little CRM account pulled up here. Both of these reports are going to be housed under your workspace tab on the top left corner. This first report is my activity report, the second option down in my drop-down menu, and that's going to pull up a nice little activity log of everything I and my team members have done over the past week. You can see one thing that all the reports will share as I go through this webinar is this gray header bar. This gray header bar at the top always contains the available sort and filter options for that report. So again, every report, every list of contacts will have this gray bar, and that is your cue to know if you want to sort or filter this list. All of that's going to be housed under this gray bar. These filters allow you to pick what you'd like to specifically see in a report. On the activity report, this is where I will see a particular user's activity. So if I want to see, for example, what Bob has done so far in the month, I can go ahead and turn two filters on. The first filter is this filter by user option. Instead of showing me all users, I only want to see Bob's activity. So I'm going to click on that option, select Bob's activity, hit apply filter. This shows me what Bob has done. In addition to that, I don't just want to see what Bob has done. I only want to see what he's done in the month of March so far. So I'm going to add another filter on top. This shows me everything Bob's done. I'm going to filter the date range on the right side of my report. Pulls up another pop-up box, and I'm going to say, show me everything he did from March 1st to today, the 19th. Go ahead and hit view this date range, and that's going to show me everything Bob did so far in the month of March. I now have a simple report that shows me everything that Bob has been doing. I can scroll through to see the updates, the tasks he's completed. All of it will be logged in his activity report. This can then be exported out via the print button on the right-hand side, and that's going to give me a PDF file of this report that I see here. So on the other side of this, we've got the task report, and the task report just shows you every task you have scheduled in the CRM. So again, that is under your workspace on the top left corner, and this time is the third link down, task report. And if you have access to other users' calendars in the CRM, you can also see the tasks they have assigned to them. So we've got our nice task report here. Similar to what you saw on the activity report, we've got this gray header bar that again will be your filter and sort options. This lets me see specific types of tasks based on due date, completion status, and so on, and lets me keep a bird's eye view of what you have coming up beyond the day, the week, the month on a calendar. So from a manager's perspective, this lets me keep track of what my team is working on as well. So let's say I want to see a list of what Bob is working on in this report. I can just use this task report. Again, I'll be using the filter by user option. Click on that option, select Bob's tasks, hit apply filter. I see what Bob has coming up. He's got a bunch of overdue tasks that he should be working on and one that is over a year old. So, I'm going to send him a quick email, see what's going on here with Jane, and if he's planning on keeping up with Jane ever. If not, we can go ahead and delete that task, clear that out. There's no need to have a task that's over a year old. So you've got this report here, filter by your user, see what they're doing, see what they're working on, and see what's been completed or incomplete. So task report is just a quick, easy way for you to see what you have coming up and what your team has coming up as well. So all right, we've got these two simpler reports out of the way. Again, these are internal reports. The task and activity reports are internal reports in the CRM to let you know what's been done, what you've been doing in the system here. The bigger report that you probably want to look at here are your pipeline reports. Pipelines in the CRM represent processes that you are keeping track of. They outline a sequence of steps that you are managing, and with every pipeline, there is a corresponding report in the software that shows you everyone who's moving through this process that you've mapped out. Pipelines are especially flexible because you can create whatever custom fields you need within that pipeline to track any specific piece of information as someone or some company moves through the sequence or workflow that you've got here. And these custom fields are important for you to keep in mind because the more fields you have, the more you can filter by later on. So let's take a look at some of these pipeline reports in action. I'm going to quickly toggle back to my account here. If you want to view all of your pipelines in your pipeline report, just go ahead and select the pipeline option on your main header bar, and you will see I've got 3 pipelines here to track different components of, say, a very conventional sales process. I'm only using an easy sales process here for this webinar, but keep in mind, of course, the CRM is intended for any industry. You can use pipelines for any process, any workflow. As long as there's a sequence of steps involved, you can go ahead and map out a pipeline for that. But for this example here, doing a typical sales. I'm selling products and I'm using the CRM to track the sales as well as my conversion of my leads to customers. My main lead pipeline on the left side of this page, this here is the default pipeline in the CRM that tracks the process through which I convert a prospect into a client. Whether or not you're a brand new, less annoying CRM user, a very old user with us, this lead pipeline is the default pipeline. You're always going to see it, so it should look pretty familiar to you as I dive into that. This next pipeline that I've got here is also a lead pipeline, but it's a sales lead pipeline. I've created some additional custom fields to help me track more data about each lead as I'm processing them and turning them into a customer. And this last pipeline that I've got here is to track orders. This orders pipeline helps me get a good idea of what orders my current customers are placing and lets me track what products they need, what services they would like for that. As such, all three of these different pipelines represent the different processes and have different fields on them. And so the reports I'll generate will look different depending on which one I pull up. So this first lead pipeline here that I'm going to see here, again, this is the default lead pipeline. I can access this just by going to pipelines and going to leads from this drop-down menu. This pipeline has no custom fields. It is a default pipeline that I have here. It just says prospect, qualified lead. When I click on quick edit, I don't have any other fields beyond this. This is the standard pipeline. And while it's still useful, it means that what I can filter by on this lead report, again, on this gray bar, is going to be a little bit more limited. I can filter by status. I can see all the contacts I have at a particular stage. I can see who certain leads are assigned to. I have that option available. So if I want to see all my prospects, I can click on filter by status, pull up all my prospects, apply filter to get that list. But that's pretty much what I'm going to be able to do with this particular pipeline. Shows me all the contacts I have moving this workflow, but it won't pull any more information beyond that because I don't have any other field. I don't have any other information that I have saved on this report. And that's why, while we always have this pipeline as a default, we always recommend that you customize the default lead pipeline a little bit further. And one easy way to ramp up your pipeline report is to just toss in a few custom fields. So let's take a look at the second lead pipeline I've created, my sales lead pipeline. So my second option in my pipeline drop-down menu, here's my sales lead pipeline. This sales lead pipeline has 3 additional custom pipeline fields, one for source, one for estimated closing date, and one for value. And so you can see all of these additional details on the report itself. And what makes this powerful is that I can now filter for specific details within these fields. For every prospect that now moves through my workflow, I can now put in a source for them, where they came from, their value to me as a lead, and an estimated closing date of when I think I'm going to convert them into a customer. So now that I can filter by these fields here, when I want to see a lead that I think I'll be closing in the next 3 months, it's no longer a guessing game. I don't have to go through each lead to see what notes I've put in there and then estimate from then when I think it's going to close, who I should work on first, because I've already put that into the CRM. I've already said, I think that this is going to close at the end of March. I've indicated a date for me. Now I can search for this date. So what I want to do is I want to see a list of all my sales leads that I think will be closing in the month of March. What I'll do, back to my gray header bar with my filter options, I'm going to click on filter by specific field. I'm going to tell the CRM I would like the system to search the estimated closing date fields and tell the system I want to see every lead that I have that has a closing date between the start of March and the end of March. So all my leads that I'm going to close in the month of March. Hit apply filter. That pulls up that specific list of prospects and leads that I've got here. I've got 4 leads I need to work on. These are all leads that will be closing in the month of March. And so these should be my high priority leads that I actively follow up with as well. You can see this being pretty flexible depending on whatever industry you're in. If you're in the insurance industry, you need to track policy renewal dates. You can have an expiration date field. If you want to know when a contract was signed, you can put in a date contract signed field. Any date item that you need to put in, create a field for that, and you can now filter and sort by that later on. I can more easily see leads and contacts that fit a certain date range criteria that I'm looking for, and it helps me prioritize my day a little more. It lets me differentiate between my leads a bit more clearly. I know these 4 are what I want to focus on instead of the top 10, 15 that I've got on my main list. And what's interesting too is if this is a report that I need to frequently pull, I always want to see a list of all of my March leads. What I can just do, instead of running this filter each and every time I need to see this list, I can simply bookmark this pipeline report. So I'm on Chrome right now, but depending on whatever browser you're using, you can just bookmark this specific report with the filter turned on. I'm going to click on the star icon on the top right corner of my Chrome button. That bookmarks this page for me, and I can put it into my CRM reports folder, and I'm just going to call it leads closing in March 2019. Have that as a report, save that as a bookmark. And now, whenever I need to see a list of all the leads that I'm closing in March, I want to see that report. I don't have to go into the filters, run everything through again. I just go to my little drop-down menu, pull up my bookmarks, pull up my CRM reports, and generate my leads closing in March report. That will always pull up this particular report with the filters already turned on. So as you're running these reports in the system, as you're working with your leads here, keep in mind which reports you run most frequently and need to access the most, and consider bookmarking the reports to save them. You can create a bookmarks folder in your browser so you can keep them all in one place, and you can just pull up all of these reports whenever you need to. But that was a quick segue here. Let's go back to our pipelines and getting them customized for yourself. So I've talked a lot about how great pipelines are, how great these custom fields are, how useful they are for filtering and all of that. How do you actually create these fields for yourself? You can create as many of these custom pipeline fields as you need just through your custom pipelines page under settings. Keep in mind that this is an administrator setting. You have to be at least an admin on the account in order to customize or add fields to a pipeline. So if you're not an admin on the account, but you think that you need a custom field, you need to pull a report, you need to save a certain piece of information that we don't already have a field for, let your admin know, let your account owner know so that they can customize the pipeline and add the fields that you need. But again, to create that field, just go to your settings page, go to customize your pipelines, and click on edit underneath whichever lead you want to add that field to. So we just looked at that sales lead pipeline. So I'm going to click on edit underneath sales lead, take me over to that pipeline page, and you're going to see all my custom fields are on the left side of the screen. The existing fields that I have, source, estimated closing date, value, are already in my system here. If I want to throw in another field, I can go ahead and click on create a custom field on the left-hand side and put in a new field here. Let's say I want to throw in a referral. Oh, well, we've already put in a referral source. So let's say amount, any special requests. Put that in as a field, and I'll go ahead and make this a text area so that if any of my sales lead has a special request, I have a space to put in these requests and create that field here. So now I have a brand new field that I can work on. And if I go back to my sales lead pipeline, that is under pipelines, sales leads, I'm now going to see that for my existing sales leads that I have in my system, if I click on quick edit to the right of their name, I have these new field created here for special requests that I can fill in depending on what someone is looking for. All right, so we've got these fields put in, we've got these filters turned in. I'm going to show you one more example here. Let's take a look at an example of a pipeline that you have with lots of custom fields, which is a good thing. You always want to create custom fields whenever you need to so that you have a space to store all of that information. The more fields you have, the more you can filter by. So if you're ever in doubt, you think, I need to save this piece of information, but I'm not sure if I should create a field, err on the side of creating the field. Create that field early on, and if you don't need it later on, you can always delete it. It's always easier to delete extra fields than to create a new field halfway through your pipeline and realizing that you need to re-enter a lot of data. So with that in mind, let's take a look at a pipeline with lots of fields, and that is my orders pipeline. Going to my pipelines drop-down menu, select this third option here. I will see here a list of all the orders that my customers have placed. This orders pipeline helps me keep track of what someone, the order ID, the products they want, the number of boxes they purchased, the price I quoted, when it was delivered. So I've got a lot of fields here about every single order. And you can see that because I've got a bunch of these custom fields in my pipeline, I can see and enter a lot of information about every specific order. Mr. Adam Cosmo's order right here, I can see his status, it's been placed. I can put in an ID, the products he wants, number of products he's purchased, price, and a delivery date that I think is going to get done. So I know I'm just about beating this point of death at this point, but the extra value of having all of these fields put in is that I now have so much flexibility on what I want to filter by. Every single field that you see here, I can now filter by. And because I can stack these filters one on top of another, I can now see things like total number of orders made in March that included a specific product. From there, I can start drawing comparisons. Did I make more sales this month? Is this product popular? Does the product need more marketing? How can I adapt my business based on what I already know? So the CRM itself cannot sell your products for you. But with these reports that have all this information, you can start collecting the raw data you need to start gaining some insights as to how your business can be improved and expanded. I want to see how well product B is doing. All I have to do is tell the CRM, show me all the orders with product B. Filter by specific field. From this drop-down menu, tell the system, show me everyone who's purchased product B. Apply filter. I can see of all the 5 active orders I've got, 2 of them contain order B. So it's probably a useful product for my team. I can advertise it a little bit more, do some bundle deals. This gives me a lot more insight as to how people are buying their products, what they're buying, what they're looking for, and that gives me information on how I should sell to them in the future. So with all of this information, with knowing that you're pulling insights, you're pulling data and getting some more details from that data, this brings us to our next and final topic. We're going to talk about crunching numbers. We're going to be doing a little tiny bit of math here, but don't worry, it's going to be okay. It's not a lot of math, but that lets you pull a bit more information about all of your pipelines. So let's take a look at some of the things that you might want to pull with a pipeline. So the first number we're going to run through here is your conversion rate. How good you were at converting prospects into closed sales. This doesn't have to be sales necessarily. Again, I mentioned the CRM is intended for any industry. It doesn't have to be sales. Sales is just the example I'm using here. This conversion rate just lets you know the number of people that you moved to a successful endpoint over a period of time. So if it's not sales, it can be the job applicants you've hired, the number of projects completed. It just lets you know your success rate, essentially. So unfortunately, right now, we don't have a widget in our system that runs calculations for you, but rest assured, that's a feature that's on our radar. But in the meantime, what you would just want to do is manipulate the CRM's pipeline report to give you the numbers you need to calculate this value. So the conversion rate is very simple. You run 2 filters, see all of your records, regardless of status, all the records that came in over a date range. And then you want to see of these records that came in, which one of them have been won. The conversion rate formula is very simple. Sale 1 divided by total number of leads. And if you want to get this in a percentage form, multiply that by 100. So let's do a very quick calculation here. Let's go back to my sales lead report and let's track my conversion rate. I'm going to go to my pipelines, go to sales lead in my drop-down menu. So back in this pipeline, I want to see my conversion rate for the month of March so far. So what I'll first do is filter to see all of my leads created in March, and then filter to see all my statuses active or closed. So first report here, I'm going to click on filter by status on the left-hand side. I don't just want to see active, I want to see all statuses. So select that option to pull up all statuses in my sales lead report. Of my list of sales lead, I want to see all of them that were created in March. So I'm going to add another filter on top, filter by specific field on this gray bar. And from this drop-down menu, I'm going to tell the CRM, show me all the sales leads that were created between the 1st of March and the 31st of March, just to round it all out. And apply filter. This shows me the total number of leads created in the month of March, regardless of what status they're in. So this is my total number, and I will see on the right-hand side here showing rows 1 through 8 of 8. So I've got 8 total leads that came in the month of March. I'm going to write that down somewhere to take a note of it. Now, of this list of total leads, let's see how many sales I've won. And I can change this filter just by clicking on filter by status on the left-hand side. Now, instead of all statuses, I only want to see sale 1. So I'm going to select sale 1 and then go ahead and click apply filter. So now this is going to show me a list of all the leads that I've won in the month of March. The total again will be on the right-hand side. I'll see here showing rows 1 through 3 of 3. And so I see that in the month of March so far, I've won 3 sales. And I'll write this number down somewhere. So what I have here is 3 sales won over a total of 8 leads that came in. So if you remember my conversion rate formula, that is sale 1 over total times 100. So that's 3 divided by 8. Multiply it by 100 to give me a percent, and that gives me a conversion rate of 37.5% for March. Pretty solid, but I can still do better than that. And if I keep running these numbers regularly for the previous month, the previous 6 months, I can start comparing conversion rates. You can compare conversion rates over time. You can compare conversion rates over type of product. You can calculate conversion rates between salespeople on your team. So you can see you've got the filter by user option here. I can filter to see all the leads that Bob has won versus all the leads that he's created and see what his specific conversion rate is. That lets you know a bit more about how Bob is doing, how specific team members are doing, to see what their conversion rates are like. And one other useful thing that you probably might want to keep track of with your conversion rates is to know which referral source gives you the highest return. I've got a field here for source. So if I want to see, is an online ad more powerful than a referral? Is a cold call better at converting than a website ad? I can start tracking these different sources, filter to see all the sale ones for my online ad sources to track the conversion rate for that particular referral source. And because I have that field, that makes it so much easier for me. And with that, you know who your effective referral sources are. You can invest a little bit more money in a more effective lead generator and so on. And as I said, the CRM cannot close your sales for you, but will give you the raw data you need to help you close more sales with all of these insights that you can gather based off this data here. Now, the next number you probably want to see here is the total value of a pipeline. So let's jump over to that very quickly. This one is also pretty straightforward. As long as you've got a custom field or custom pipeline field created for value or price quoted for amount, and you have a space for that, all you have to do is export that spreadsheet out into a Excel file and then use Excel's sum formula to add up all the numbers in that pipeline. So for this particular number, I want to see a total value of all the orders that were completed in March. So what I'll do is I can hop back to my orders pipeline, pipelines, orders, and I'm going to filter to see all of my orders that were completed in March. So 2 filters this time, filter by specific field. Tell the system all the orders that were last updated between the 1st and the 31st of March. So all the orders that were updated sometime within this month here. And the other filters, I want to see of all the orders that were updated, which one of them were delivered and completed. So I'm going to now add another filter, filter by status on the left-hand side. This time select order received by customer, close that, and that's going to show me all the orders that were completed and received by my customers in the month of March. I've got this list pulled up here. I've got all the total values of what they purchased, and I'll just click on the export button on the top right corner of my screen to pull it out into an Excel file. So now that I've got that downloaded, I'm just going to open that up in Excel so that I can take a look at my numbers here. And let's get that pulled up. Excel normally takes a little bit longer to warm up here, so give me 1 second as Excel opens that up. And there we go. So it's going to take a little bit longer because it knows lots of people are watching right now. But okay, so we've got the Excel file pulled up. I'll zoom in a little so you can take a closer look, but let me first enable editing and let's get in a little bit more. And you're now going to see that with my particular pipeline here, I've created a field for price quoted, column R right here. This has the total number of all of the orders that someone's purchased, what they've paid for me to get that. Oh, sorry, I said I was going to zoom in, but I didn't zoom in. There we go. There we go. Column R, price quoted. These are all the total value of all the orders that came in. If I want to see the total value of all of this pipeline, just select that last cell, use Excel sum formula, very straightforward, equals sum, open parentheses, highlight that value, close that out, hit enter, and that gives me a total value here. So I've got a sweet $26K worth of orders that came in the month of March so far, looking pretty good given that we're still kind of halfway through March. And you can do this with any number field that you have on your report so that this gives you an idea of the total value of the sales moving through the pipeline for any given filter criteria that you set. This lets you know the runway you have for the next month, helps you start budgeting a bit more intelligently. And you can imagine that because any number field can be tallied up this way, you can use this to see, for example, the volume of product that you've moved if you have a quantity field. So if I want to see the number of boxes I sold, I have a number of boxes field here. I can tally that up to equals sum Throw that in there, and I see so far we've sold 145 boxes of product in the month of March. So you could even use this to track the donation amounts if you're using a pipeline to track donors, track the auction value if you're using a pipeline to track auctions. Anything that you'll want to know the total number of, make sure you create a number field for it in your pipeline so you can easily sum that up when you run an Excel report. So now the last number that we're going to show you here that you can crunch, it's quite a fun one. This one is one that's intended to help you optimize your workflow and be a bit more efficient with your sales. We're now going to calculate the average number of follow-ups or updates that you need to close a sale for your business in your industry based on how you've been doing so far. The CRM's pipeline report has a bit of a secret column that you should have noticed if you've ever exported your pipeline report out into a spreadsheet, and that is the number of updates column. This column tracks the number of times you made an update to a specific contact or company in that particular pipeline. Every status change is an update. Every note entered is an update. Every note entered in that pipeline counts as an update. Even if the status stayed the same. Every new custom field entry you put in for that pipeline counts as an update. Basically, that column in your pipeline report lets you know the number of times you made some change to a pipeline item that is attached to a contact or company. And that can very roughly translate to the number of interactions you had with a contact in order for them to reach the status that they're currently in. So this is a simple number to get. All you have to do is export out your pipeline report to see your closed sales and then pull an average for this number of updates column. So let's take a look at the number of updates it takes for me to close a sales lead. So up in my CRM, go to pipelines, sales leads, and in this lead report, I want to see the number of interactions I've had with all of my successful closed leads. So I don't want to see all of my leads. I only want to see my sales one, my completed cycles. So I'm going to click on filter by status on the left-hand side, filter to see only sale one, hit apply filter, pull up my list of successful sales, and then same thing as I did just now, I'm going to export that out into a spreadsheet file on the top right corner. Pull that out into Excel, and let me go ahead and open that. Hopefully it's a little bit faster now that Excel is a little bit warmed up here. And that's going to pull up that second spreadsheet that I've got for my sales lead. And once that is loaded up, you can go ahead and take a look at which column. So again, I'm going to enable that, and let's go ahead and zoom you in from the start so you can actually see what I'm doing. And you will see this number of updates column. Whoops. Number of updates column is column V. Sorry, not V, W. And let's zoom in a little bit more. And you can see, here we go. There's that column that I talked about, column W, number of updates. Again, this tells me the number of times I updated a specific contact's movement within that pipeline. Anything I did with them in that pipeline counts as an update. So if I want to see the number of times I normally interact with a one sale to close them, all I have to do is find an average of this. So Excel's average formula is also simple, equals average, open parentheses, highlight the values you want, close parentheses, and that gets me a nice average of 4.75. This lets me know it takes, on average, about 5 touches for me to close a sale if it works out well. This gives me a clear idea of how many interactions I can expect to have with a contact or a company before a sale is going to close. And I can start comparing these numbers as well. I can pull a report of all the sales I've lost and see the average number of interactions there. This gives me insight as to how long I can anticipate a sales cycle will be, and maybe at what point I should just cut my losses and give up on a sale. If I know it normally takes me 5 interactions to win a sale, and that prospect that I've reached out to about 30 times hasn't done anything yet, it's still a prospect, maybe that sale is just not going to go through. But like with previous value calculations, you can also imagine it gives you more information about your referral sources. Are some referral sources easier to follow up with? Do they require fewer updates because they're warmer? Does a lead from a specific source take fewer interactions? And this means that when you get a new lead from that particular source, you already have an idea of how much attention this lead might need relative to someone else. You've established a baseline knowledge of what to expect here. The more information you have going into a sale, the more likely you're going to be able to close that sale. And by manipulating these reports, by exporting them out into a spreadsheet, running these numbers, you can get a general idea of what to expect with any given sale. And armed with that knowledge, you're never going to go into a meeting blind. And that's exactly what you have a CRM for. So just to kind of wrap things up here, we know we've covered a fair bit of ground here. I know Julie has also been tracking questions as we went through, but I'm just going to take maybe a minute or two to see if there was any big questions that came in that we might want to take a closer look at. All right, I think Susan had a very interesting question here about bookmarked reports, and that's what I showed you when I bookmarked a filtered report that I had in my CRM. Yes, that gets updated as you add more people into the pipeline. What you're bookmarking here is that specific filter. So if you bookmarked this report earlier in January and you've added 30 more leads into that same pipeline, when you run that report, that bookmarked report in March right now, all of those 30 leads will also be included in that filter report. So it's a nice handy way to really keep that report up to date. It's going to keep updating as you add those leads into the system. But okay, so I'm going to keep just talking through. Feel free to keep sending in questions through the chat section, through the questions panel, whatever you want to cover. We're happy to demo or talk through that. Julie and I will also spend a couple of minutes after this webinar to stay on the line here, stay on the chat. So if something crops up later and you're wondering how to answer that and what's going on there, feel free to stay on the line with us. We're going to be at the chat section. One thing I want to make sure you guys also keep in mind is that these reports that I covered are just examples. They're intended to be a starting point for you. The reports will change depending on your industry, the particular business you're in, the type of information you find valuable. Make sure you're adapting the CRM to your own needs. Create the fields that you want to keep track of, not just the ones that I'm telling you. These are just standard default ones that anyone could potentially use. And I want you guys to really keep in mind that custom pipeline fields are going to be your best friend here. Any report that you need to pull can normally be captured as long as you have a custom pipeline field for that piece of data. And once you have that in a report, don't be afraid to export that into Excel. Excel lets you do so much more with your data. So go ahead and export out into a spreadsheet, crunch those numbers, generate those pie charts, whatever you want to take a look at. So, all right. So I'm going to go ahead and throw in our last thing here. Again, we're just going to stay on the line for questions. So if something comes up, go ahead and keep posting them in. But before I let you guys go, in the interest of time here, I'm just going to say we're a small business looking to improve as well. I hope everyone's learned something from this webinar. So I'd love to get some feedback. You loved it, you hated it, you learned something, you learned nothing. Whoops. Here's a link to our feedback form. I'm going to paste it into our chat section right now. Feel free to just let me know what you thought of this webinar. If you want to learn more, if you have some ideas or future webinars, let us know in this feedback form. I'd be super grateful if you would share your thoughts with us. And before I leave you guys, go ahead and reach out to us if you need to. After this webinar, you'll get a replay. Feel free to send that replay to anyone else who needs it or rewatch it whenever you need to. But if you have questions about that, just email us at help, HELP, @lessannoyingcrm.com, or just give us a call at 877-666-6467. Okay, all right. Julie and I will stay online. We'll answer any questions you have, so feel free to stay on if you have anything else. But thank you guys so much for joining us today. We hope to see you at our next webinar, and have a fantastic rest of your day. Bye.